Welcome to Right on Track, a songwriting podcast. Thanks to Tone for tuning in. I'm Demi Michelle Schwartz, and I'm thrilled you're joining me on my songwriting journey. So kick back and relax, don't fall flat, and remember, stay right on track. Hey everyone, welcome back to Right on Track. I'm so excited for today's episode because joining me from across the pond for a chat is Owen Morton. Hi, Owen.
Hi, Demi. Thanks so much for having me.
You're so welcome. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Not long woke up, to be honest, because I've been on a night shift last night.
Perfect. Well, I'm so excited to have you on the show. We have lots to chat about, including your single mind and much more. But before we get into that, I would love for you to share a little about yourself and your journey in music so far.
Yeah, so I'm a relatively new artist to the country scene, but I've been doing it as a hobby for 7 years. Well, probably about 8 years now, to be honest. And it's just the one thing in my life that's always remained consistent. Um, Playing specifically country music and learning to write songs and express what I'm feeling and thinking that way is just been the biggest gift that God have given me, to be honest.
That's perfect. I love that so much. I feel like a lot of us started by loving music for a long time, being musicians, being writers, and then making that transition into becoming artists. So, what was that like for you to go from just loving music as a hobby to deciding I want to make this more, I want to make this a career?
Yeah, so it was always about belief. Um, if you'd have ever asked me in any point of that 8 years, what would be your ideal life, the perfect life, I would have always said a country guy, a country singer. So it was always there, to do it, to go for it. But the belief was never there, and it was not anyone's fault around me. It was just I always grew up with the belief that in music, no one makes it. Maybe one person does, but it's not going to be you. So I always was keeping music, arm's length away in terms of a career and going into different business ventures because I'm very entrepreneurial. So I love reading about business and running kind of business things and stuff. So I went into a few different things, and although they were good while they lasted, it was just not. It was not the passion. It was not something that I wanted to do. So eventually, I took up freelance singing on Fiverr just to make a few extra bucks a month, and I've done this for 4 years, and this was at the start of 2020. And eventually, after grafting and all the hard work, I was given an opportunity which just launched my music career into action with not much input from me to in the beginning. And it was when my good friend John Williamson, also known as Swilson, asked me to sing on his debut country album. And Swilson's quite well known. He's a uh, good stream Texas artist. So this was an opportunity that I couldn't pass by. And from then, all it took was one person to believe in me, and this whole thing had started.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. What a great story as well. And I love how you are drawn to country music. What is the story behind that? Why is country the genre where you felt you belonged?
You know what? I couldn't even put it into words because I've grown up in a place that is alien to country music. I grew up with EDM and dubstep. I hate to say it, that was the thing in my early childhood. Um, but I always, even at the age of 9, I always liked Elvis for some reason, and I think it was actually a play that I done back in primary school, which is I think your elementary school. Um, Basically, when I was really young, my teacher introduced me to Elvis, this character, and it just stuck, you know. And eventually, that manifested again when I became 16 or 17, and I got my own Spotify, and I just kind of, you know, I always loved the American accent, and that was, the driving factor for me to look into country music. And since then, I never looked back. I can even remember the playlist.
Yeah, no, that's great. Have you ever been to the States? Have you ever gone to Nashville, or is that still on your list of dreams and things to do?
Yeah, I've been once. So
Oh,
I've got
really? Oh,
family in,
cool.
yeah, I've got family in Idaho. And it was actually that when I was 17 that I sold the DJ decks that I had at the time to go and visit them. And that was a key thing in my life too, visiting Idaho. I don't know if you've ever been to Idaho or the Midwest.
I haven't been to Idaho now.
Oh, it's gorgeous. It's just a beautiful place. It's probably a bit like what Colorado is in some
Colorado. Yeah, yeah,
places.
yeah. Yeah.
The mountain town.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah.
But oh no, it's I just fell in love with Idaho, and yeah, it was just a love for the state as a whole that I developed from then. And in 2022, we went to Nashville for the first time. And that was I love Tennessee too. After that, we went to Lynchburg. Um, where else? We went somewhere else, but it escaped me. But yeah, I just fell in love, and our recent trip was Texas, and again, I think Texas tops all of that. I'm a Texas boy, if you ask me, and yeah, that was incredible too.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let's shift into the songwriting now. How would you describe your songwriting process?
I like to collab with people, so I'm never gonna be closed off to collabing. So a lot of the work that I've done has come from co-writes, and I'll freely say that. You know, in terms of my own kind of process, if I was going to do one which didn't involve anyone else, which I have done many times, I always, I kind of, and technically, I start with the most memorable part of the song, and I'll work the way backwards. Of course, with if I've got something that I want to write about, a meaning or a hook, that's going to be the center of it. But I'll start with, let's say, a chorus that I really like, and then I'll work backwards. And in terms of the feel of my songs, I love to write about natural imagery and metaphors and stuff, which is something that you wouldn't always put together. So I like, for instance, in mine, which is a lot more indie folk than I would normally release. It's a blend between the images and the imagery of the fall and the autumn, and leaves falling and pumpkin spice latte and the Halloween season, and this idea of romance and love and warmth. So I've merged those two together in mine, and that was the aim of the song, and I think that's come out really well.
Yeah, and I'm really happy you brought that up because I definitely want to have a conversation with you about the very almost lyrical imagery, the poetic nature of it with the imagery and the metaphors and stuff. And I'm a very similar songwriter in that way. I love imagery, and I kind of look at it as, like writing through a lens of sorts because if you have a concept, like for
Hmm.
example with mine, it's a love song. But there's so many love songs. Like that's the most
Yeah,
popular concept you can possibly write
yeah,
about. However,
yeah.
like this is a way of making it unique because you're writing a love song through the lens of autumn, and that's some way that you can set this apart and also your own style as a songwriter as well.
Absolutely. I love the autumn. It's probably my favorite season outside of the summer. I'm also a very summery boy, but uh, I think the autumn is just such a beautiful time of the year, and that combined with a romantic song was just something that was always on the list. And about love songs too, just in general, I heard one of my friends who I was writing with. He told me this quote. I can't remember who it was from, but it was like, "If you say I love you when you're writing a song, then you're doing something wrong."
Yeah, no, for sure. So, for any songwriters who want to kind of pull that imagery and metaphor into their songs and are not quite sure how to do that, what advice would you give to get started with this technique?
Go for walks, observe what's around you. That's where mine come from. So I was actually just going for a walk around my neighborhood block, really, and it's quite quiet. It's also got a lot of green trees around it, or just trees. So I walk past a lot of trees, and obviously in fall, it was, your typical leaves on the ground, orange, kind of aesthetic as I was walking. And I actually wrote most of the songs. It was a co-write too. John brought me the chorus, but he um he gave me permission to pack it out, with the verses and stuff, and we were sat there on the call, and this was what I brought to him. And yeah, it just kind of came when I was walking and also on the phone to John. So I was walking and then I was just putting it straight in my notes. So I've got a notes folder in my phone which has just got all the songs in, and this is where it went as I was walking, and it was just coming to me, when I had the melody, it's one of them songs that it wrote itself.
Yeah, no, perfect. Yeah, I really like the idea of, especially like songwriting and for songwriters who write authentically, you have to be aware of your surroundings and being present in your life because that's where you kind of pick up on things. In terms of like writing specific images into songs and tying it all together, like when I intentionally do that for mine, I like to list things. So like there is a song coming on my new EP this year called Paradise, and it's kind of like a love song, but it's written through the lens of like paradise. And so there's a lot of beachy imagery, um ocean imagery and stuff like that. And so basically what I did was I listed a bunch of sensory language, like sights, smells, hearing, like
Yeah.
all the senses, and listed them, and like imagine like being at the beach, being at the ocean, like what scents come to mind, what images come to mind. And then I basically looked at that list and said, oh, this one can go with this one. I was starting to like pair them together and see like how they can tie into the metaphor of like a relationship that didn't happen. And so, like, listing things and actually seeing it in front of you, like, these are the images I want to include and the metaphors I want to include, and then kind of tying them all together.
That's exactly it. Yeah, you just reminded me that the senses was a big thing as part of
Yeah.
it, you know, and bringing that. I even involved the sense of taste with the
Yeah, yeah.
coffee
Yeah, 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 yeah.
line, so it's just that's such a good thing that you've just brought up there, Demi, which, yeah, involve the senses. It's just like writing a story, it's just with
Yeah.
words.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I'm an author as well. So I do that like in just fiction
Amazing.
writing too. And I think that's the thing that we can remind ourselves as songwriters. I think sometimes obviously the visual imagery, like the sight, like that's a big one, but I think sometimes the other senses can be left out. But when you incorporate the other senses, it makes it so much more immersive into the lyrics.
Yeah. Yeah, that was my thinking. I always try and write something which you wouldn't hear every day. You know, I don't really like writing stuff just for the sake of putting out a love song or a sad song or anything. So if there's an idea which I think is unique, I'm gonna use that heavily.
Yeah, perfect. Absolutely. So, in terms of the recording process of this song, what was that experience like for you?
That was okay. I mean, I actually mixed this one myself. So the bass track was produced um externally, and John got the rights to it and brought me it, and we put the music over it. I done all the vocals, as I said. I'm a freelance singer too, so I've got all of the equipment just here. So I put the vocals to it, all of the vocal tracks, the lead, the doubles, the harmony, and I mixed it. I'm not very good at mixing. This is not something that I've put a lot of hours into the mixing. So I was learning as I was going along, and also my mastering engineer for this song, Connor Tucker. Shout out to him because he gave me so many tips and insights. I was sending him the song, and he was like, "Oh, with the vocal EQ, you can adjust this frequency here, man, and lower this one." And he was instrumental or detrimental in the bringing together of the sound, really. So shout out to Connor. And of course, when it was all done, he was the one who mastered it. And of course, yeah, it was just a great experience.
Yeah, well, that's really fun that you were able to do that. I personally don't mix and master any of my stuff, but I'm very active in the production process. And like just from that side, like, I do a lot of pop music as well, so we do all the fun digital production, but, like, when I first started working with my producer, I knew absolutely nothing, and it was like I was, like, basically really relying on him to, like, produce everything, 'cause I knew nothing, and,
Yeah.
like, now I'm at the point of, like, I basically do fully produce demos myself at my house and then show him, and then we kind of, like, mimic it, but with better instruments and stronger instrumentation or whatever. But, like, I feel like I've learned so much from him to the point where I'm able to have stronger visions of my songs before I go to the studio, so, like, it's much smoother of a process, and so I think it's really cool how, we learn along the way from other people.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, humans are, by our nature, we'll learn better by example. So it's always best to have someone who knows more than you, who will actually show you, and you can work with them, because that is the best way to learn. You know, I'm not a classroom guy. I can't just sit in a classroom and become a genius at something. Like, I have to look and do it wrong myself and see what's going right for other people in order to refine it. And yeah, exactly the same experience with you. I mean, I dabbled with mixing and stuff in the past, but nothing really professional. And it was only just getting into this whole music thing, especially the marketing side, that I realized there's so much that I need to do that I don't have a clue about.
Yeah.
So
Well, you don't know until you start to try.
yeah, that's true. How long have you been an artist, by the way?
I released my first single in, November of 2019.
Oh,
So it's
nice.
been it's been a bit. I have 2 albums out, an EP, and I'm working on my new EP right now.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Congrats. I'll follow you after this.
Do you have any plans for an album?
I do, yeah. So mine was actually a bit of what's the word? An anomaly. So, like I said, it's a lot more indie pop, folk, Noah Carney type stuff than I would normally do. But I felt like I didn't want to put myself in a box. But after mine, I'm really going in the direction now of the more neo traditional country type sound. So a lot of country instruments, a lot of that 90s country type swing and writing and style,
Yeah.
because that's all the stuff that I adore. I
Yeah.
love that stuff, and
I
that's
feel
what
like 90s
my
country
art
is coming
just
back too.
Oh yeah, yeah, it is 100%. Zach Top, John Pardy, the likes of them, are just they're killing it. So
Yeah.
yeah, so much inspiration now to do that. So yeah, we're currently I'm writing with a guy called Keller. Keller Lord, his name is. Hopefully I've pronounced that right. But we've become good friends, and he's a killer songwriter himself. So we've been writing a lot of these songs for the album. And also, there's a big announcement that's coming up for a festival, which is it's not soon, so I'm not going to mention it. But this is something that's motivated us to just get this album together quick, and so we can get the band and just put on a great big show.
Yeah. Well, I'm super excited for you.
Thanks, Demi.
You're welcome. Before we go, what advice do you have for any songwriters listening?
For any songwriters listening, let's say if you were similar to me and you wanted to make this a thing, a full time thing, then what I can say to you is be nice, be friendly, collab with as many artists, big or small, as you can. Don't turn anyone away if you've got the capability to work with them, because the most amazing songs that I've ever wrote have come from artists that don't have any following, and the most talented artists also don't have any following that I've met. So don't ever fall into the click mentality when you get into music. Be patient. So not everything is going to happen overnight. It took me 7 years before anyone even believed in me that I could go anywhere in music. So keep doing it, keep sticking at it. People aren't going to believe in you right away. It might take 5 years, 10 years, 1 year. You don't know. But if this is your passion, you've got to keep with it.
Yeah, fantastic advice. Thank you for joining me. Can you please share with everybody where they can find you online and check out your music?
Yeah, Demi. So my name is Owen Morton Music. It's at Owen Morton Music on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all of that. I've got a website, www.owenmortonmusic.com. Although it is still in the works, but you can expect it to be up pretty soon. And I appreciate every single one of you, and especially you, Demi, for having me on today.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a delight having you on the show. Listeners, I hope you enjoyed this chat with Owen. And of course, until next time,
Stay
stay
right
right
on
on
track.
track.